So many people talk about the Aaron Rodgers of it all, and I still think that a more realistic option at quarterback for the New York Jets is Derek Carr. So let's go over an entire offseason of what a Derek Carr acquisition would look like for the New York Jets. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to be doing one entire mock offseason, including cuts, releases, restructures, re-signings, free agent acquisitions, and an entire first full mock draft, just so that we have an idea of what our football team would look like in a Derek Carr situation if Tigo was the GM. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into it. So first order of business, what is our cap situation? As of right now, the New York Jets sit at negative $2 million in cap. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go out and get Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr totally controls his destiny. He's not going to help the Las Vegas Raiders any way, shape, or form. He's going to decline every single trade, and he's going to go to free agency so that he can pick his situation, what team he feels is best, but more importantly, help the team that he feels is best so that he can go out and Matthew Stafford and win a Super Bowl. So he's going to choose the Jets. The Jets are going to give him a contract. Now, here's the thing with the Derek Carr contract. Derek Carr's current contract that he was given was a 3-year, $121 million deal. It was an average annual salary of about $40 million. I don't think he's going to be able to command that much money in free agency. And if he's going to a new team, I don't know if anyone's going to be willing to pay Derek Carr after this situation that just happened, $40 million. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving Derek Carr the same, a very similar deal. It's going to be 3 years, but we're going to be giving him a 3-year, $110 million deal, and that breaks up to about, give me a second, about $36 million per year. That seems about right. That seems about what he's going to be getting. But because of the cap shenaniganery that you can do, we're going to say that the first year's cap hit is going to be $30 million even. We'll take the extra larger cap hit of like $42-ish million in the second year because we know that Derek Carr and the New York Jets cap situation is going to be much, much better 1 year from now than it is this year. So Derek Carr comes in. He's a $30 million cap hit. That puts us at negative $32 million of cap. So let's work on restructuring some players, cutting some players, and re-signing our own guys to free up cap space, and then let's head into the draft and free agency. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to cut 5 players. It's really cutting 4 because one of them is going to retire, and we'll start there. The first player that's going to retire is Dwayne Brown. Dwayne Brown, thank you for serving. He still hasn't had his surgery. I don't think he's going to have the surgery. I think he's going to rehab it. He's going to retire, go off into the sunset. Do you. Thank you for coming to the New York Jets and saving us last year. We saved $5 million doing that. The next cut is going to be Carl Lawson at $15 million with guys like Bryce Huff, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens waiting in the wings. It doesn't make sense to pay someone that much money when we can get the same level of production from our guys in the wings for a much cheaper contract. Thank you for being a New York Jet, Carl Lawson, and I hope you do great elsewhere. Corey Davis is going to be another cap casualty. We're going to cut him, saving $10.5 million. I have no problem with Corey Davis, but the best ability is availability, and that's where he struggled with the New York Jets. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out in New York, sadly. So we're going to move on, and we're going to save the money there. The next person that we're going to cut is going to be Braden Mann, saving us about $3 million. And then the last cut is going to be Ashton Davis, the safety. And then we're going to restructure C.J. Mosley, saving us $8 million. Laken Tomlinson, saving us $6 million. DJ Reed, saving us $5 million, and then Jonathan Franklin Meyer saving us $7 million. And then we're going to do extending players that are currently on our roster to lower their cap hit. We're going to go to Braxton Berrios and say, we can cut you and save almost all of the money on your contract. We would rather you stay here and be a part of this organization. We really, really enjoy when you're here. So we're going to extend Braxton Berrios, giving him 1 more year on his deal, but lowering his cap hit from this year and next year to $5.5 million, saving $2.5 million there. And then we're going to go up to Jordan Whitehead saying, hey, we can do the same thing. We can cut you and save almost all of your contract. Will you help us out? We would prefer for you to stay on this team. We're going to restructure and re-sign Jordan Whitehead, saving $2.5 million, lowering his $10 million cap hit to a more manageable $7.5 million this year and next year. And then the other person that we're going to extend or re-sign at this point is Ashton Davis. The reason we cut Ashton Davis is because his entire contract is voidable, and at $3 million, he's not worth that cap hit when he can be a $1.5 million player. Ashton Davis's market probably isn't spectacular, and if he decides to not come back to the Jets, we can replace him in the draft. But in this situation, he wants to stay in New York. We want to keep him in New York. So we're giving him a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. With all of those cap savings, that puts us at about $31 million of cap with cuts and restructures that we have done with guys on our roster. Now let's talk about guys that we're going to be bringing in, specifically guys that we're going to be re-signing. Of course, we're going to give Quinnen Williams his deal, whatever that number is. I don't really care. We're going to re-sign Quinnen Williams. But the thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the Patrick Mahomes, what they did with his deal, which is the deal is going to start the year after the fifth-year option. The fifth-year option is going to stay. That cap hit is going to stay. We don't want to raise that cap number, and we want to keep Quinnen Williams here for a long time. So we're going to give him a $5 million year plus the fifth-year option. That's 6 years in New York. We're going to give him a ton of guaranteed money so that he takes that deal, some job security, and the fact that he should be the second highest paid defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman in the NFL. We're going to make all of that happen, but the contract details don't really matter because it's not going to affect the cap this year. Now let's talk about the guys that we are going to bring back. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Nate Herbig played exceptionally well as a backup guard, and with the idea that we're probably going to be losing a guy like Dan Feeney and some other guys like that, we need to make sure that we have depth on the offensive line. So we're going to bring back Nate Herbig, 1 year, $2.5 million deal. We're going to bring back Sheldon Rankins because he absolutely played phenomenally this year, and he deserves to be back on this team. And the other thing is, we need defensive interior guys. Sheldon Rankins and Quinnen Williams work really well together. Rankins is going to get a 2-year, $14.5 million deal. That puts him at about $7.25 per year. We're going to bring back Greg the Leg Zuerlein. He did a fantastic job for us this past year, and I just want to stop worrying about kicker. So we're going to re-sign Greg. We're going to give him a 2-year, $3.5 million deal. That's $1.75 million per year. We're going to bring back Nathan Shepard. I think he played exceptionally well this year, earned a spot as a rotational interior defensive lineman. And instead of having to really revamp the D-line, let's just do what we did last year. We're going to bring in one interior defensive guy to really compete for that spot, maybe draft a guy, maybe do those things, but let's not have to really refill that whole room with new guys. Nathan Shepard comes back, 2 years, $2.5 million. That is about $1.25 million per year. And then we're going to bring back Ty Johnson on a 1-year, $1 million deal. Plain and simple. And then we're going to throw the tag at 2 guys. We're going to hit Bryce Huff with a second-round tender. That is going to keep him in New York for 1 year for $4.3 million. And then next year, we're going to give him a bigger extension when we have more cap space. And the thing that we need to be willing to do is willing to lose players at $4.3 million. I don't know if Huff is going to escape and go anywhere else, so I feel pretty confident doing that. If not, I'll take the second-round pick for Bryce Huff and try to replace him, especially in a draft that is really, really deep at edge. I don't want Huff to go anywhere. We just can't afford to really extend him at the $6 or $7 million that he probably deserves. The other guy we're going to hit with a tender is James Robinson. He is a restricted free agent. We're going to hit him with the right of first refusal tender. That is a $2.7 million cap hit, so that if any other team wants to sign James Robinson, they can, but we have the right to match the deal. I just don't know if J-Rob is really going to command more than $2.7 million. That leaves the New York Jets, after all of those signings, with $13 million left. And we're going to go out and make a massive, massive signing because we're done re-signing our own players Everybody else who was on the team is gone. Unfortunately, we weren't able to keep Quincy Williams. Unfortunately, we weren't able to keep Quan Alexander. They go off to Houston probably to play in the same system under D'Amico Ryans, or as I like to call him, Robert Saleh Jr., and make their money there and go play and start rebuilding that program under what I hope is going to be a great head coach. But we're going to revitalize our safety room. We're going to go out and make a massive free agent signing at safety. We're going to bring in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on a 5-year, $70 million deal. That breaks up to about $14 million per year. We're going to fudge the numbers a little bit so that the first year is a smaller number, and then the middle years are slightly larger numbers, so that he's going to be about a $10 million cap hit in the first year. That's going to leave us with more than enough space to sign our draft class and to do all that stuff and still have some wiggle room if we get injuries in camp and other things like that. And that's our free agency period. We're done. We're headed to the draft. Let's hop right into it. The fantastic thing about this situation is that we didn't have to use any draft capital to go get Derek Carr. So now we get to keep all of our draft picks, and we go to the draft, and at the number 13th overall pick, we're going to take Paris Johnston Jr., solidifying our left tackle. And if Mekhi Becton is healthy and wins that left tackle job straight up, Paris Johnson Jr. can play right tackle. If Elijah Vera Tucker decides that he wants to play right tackle, the great thing is Paris Johnson Jr. last year was a guard, so he can bump inside and possibly play right guard or even left guard if we want to move Laken Tomlinson. So we're going to get Paris Johnson Jr. I would have loved Peter Skoronski. Everyone knows my infatuation with him, but I don't want to take the same players over and over and over. As I say that, we go into the second round, and one of the things that you guys know that we didn't do is we didn't draft or re-sign a center. So we need to take a center in this class, and so we're going to take the best center available. That's John Michael Schmitz in the second round with the number 43 pick. In reality, I think that we probably trade up to go get John Michael Schmitz to just force that situation. We need the center. John Michael Schmitz is the best center in the draft. So we bring him in, boom, and we've solidified our offensive line. We move on to the third round, and we got to start replacing some of these linebackers that we lost. We have a really inexpensive linebacker room, but we also just don't have players to fill in that spot. So we go in the third round and take DeMarvion Overshown, linebacker out of Texas in the third round. I love this pick. Fantastic pick. Go on to the fourth round, and we take Zach Pickens out of South Carolina, interior defensive lineman, getting us more high-level depth in the interior of the defensive line, giving us that rotation that we know Robert Saleh likes to do. We go into the fifth round. We go back to the linebacker position, and we get Owen Papo out of Auburn, a Dom C favorite, and honestly, one of my favorite guys as well. He is an athletic freak when it comes to that. Absolutely fantastic signing, in my opinion. In the sixth round, we get cornerback Darius Rush out of South Carolina. I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Why would we sign a corner? Our cornerback room is the smallest room that we need to worry about. Well, if we can bring in a corner that can replace the bottom end of our cornerback room, we can save about $3 million. I think Darius Rush can take either Justin Hardy's or Bryce Hall's job, just straight up. I really like what he's doing. And at $3 million for each of those guys is not worth it, because you know who was $3 million this past offseason and was a massive help to the New York Jets? Quan Alexander. $3 million is a legitimate player that can come in and play one of the positions that we need. $3 million can go and get us Linval Joseph. $3 million could maybe bring back Quan Alexander. $3 million could be part of the contract that pays Quincy if he was willing to take a pay cut to stay with the New York Jets. But until the draft happened, we won't know what that situation is. We won't know if we can cut Bryce Hall or Justin Hardy. I didn't want to take that risk, knowing that I had a couple of special teamers in mind at the cornerback position, and I didn't know if they would be available. I'm not going to take that risk until I have those players. Now I have that player in Darius Rush out of South Carolina. And then with our last pick in the draft, the sixth round pick, we're going to take edge Dylan Horton out of TCU, replacing essentially the Michael Clemens role in our defensive line rotation, because JJ took the Carl Lawson role. Huff is going to take JJ's role. Clemens is going to take Huff's role. And then Horton is going to come in and take Clemens' role as our rotational guy. That gives us our entire offseason, that gives us our entire team, and honestly, I feel exceptionally good about this roster, this team, and our capabilities to honestly go win a Super Bowl. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you like? Who do you dislike? What would you have done? And last but not least, go Jets.